Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today. We just finished a long and really fun Burner Brigade show. I needed to get up a Let's Run podcast because, my whole audience isn't on Twitter. I also have my Substack. So these shows get emailed out to people. And I want to make sure everybody has content talking about the game. I do these live, but people a lot of times will watch them later. So if you're coming from the Burner Brigade show, I really appreciate that. Feel free to watch this back later if you've had enough talk for now. But if you want to keep talking, this is going to be a lot of the same stuff, talking about this game that we had tonight, talking about how the Running Rebels played without DJ Thomas, what we can expect going forward for the rest of the season, the imminent coaching change that's coming for the program that we're all kind of waiting on. We're going to talk about it all. We talked a lot in the pregame show about DJ Thomas being out for the remainder of the year. He's dealing with some sort of shoulder injury. I do not think there was some opinion placed that this might be the case, but I do not think that DJ Thomas is sitting out purposefully. I think that he is genuinely hurt. He is definitely dealing with some shoulder issues, and I don't know that. I don't think that it's fair to him to say that he is sitting out purposefully to try and prepare for his future. I think that he's still invested with the team as much as you would expect him to be. So DJ Thomas is out for the remainder of the year. The injury happened in the Fresno State game. Tonight we got to see what the Running Rebels look like without them. There were a couple of, I'm going to share my screen so that we can talk about it. There was a couple of big takeaways that I had from this Running Rebel team without DJ Thomas. So let's go over the stats first. Again, if you heard this already on the Burner Brigade, I apologize, but thanks for sticking with me because I want to make sure that the whole audience gets the stuff. The MVP for the game for the Rebels was probably, Ken Palm thinks Jalen Hill was the most efficient Rebel, which, that's probably the case. I didn't love the last shot that we took in the game. We were down by 4. Jalen Hill took a fadeaway jumper in the lane that I thought was a little ill-advised, but ultimately, what else was the shot going to be? This team was definitely without its offensive identity, without DJ Thomas early. And so Jalen Hill finishes with 10 points. He goes 3 of 6 from 2. He did make the only 3 that he took. 1 of 2 from the free throw line. You'll see that the team struggled immensely, only shot 41% from the free throw line in this game. And it actually absolutely doomed them. They were in a very close game that if they would have made their free throws, they probably would have won the game. I actually feel pretty confident in saying that. Another issue for the team in this game was they did have 11 turnovers, which I thought was a bit much. Turnovers from basically the whole team, 2 from Jalen Bedford, 2 from Hicks, only 1 from Jalen Hill and 1 from Julian Rishwain. Julian Rishwain had a very ill-advised 3-point attempt after forcing a steal at the end of the game. He struggled in this game, going for 5 points, 1 of 4 from 2, 1 of 4 from 3, or 2 for 8 from the field, and 0 for 3 from the free throw line. Really rough. Goes 2 offensive rebounds, 3 defensive rebounds, did have 3 assists. So he did a lot of other things well, but really just the scoring that we've needed from Julian Rishwain wasn't there tonight. Jaden Henley had a really tough game. Only shot 3 times, only finished with 1 point, goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Did have 4 assists, so it was nice to see him distribute the ball a little bit. But, I was expecting a lot from Jaden Henley in this game, and we just didn't get it. 32 minutes, 33 minutes from Julian Rishwain, 32 from Jaden Henley, 39 for Jalen Hill is just too much. I feel like, especially when you look at Jalen Bedford with 34, I feel like he should have had a few more. But if you look at the minutes that Jalen Bedford was out of the game, Jalen Bedford was our leading scorer with 17 points, 5 of 12 from 2, 2 of 4 from 3, did make his only free throw that he took, and also finished with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Jalen Bedford was out to start each half. He was out to start the first half and the second half. And the Running Rebels really struggled in minutes when he in time when he wasn't on the floor. So I was really disappointed that there wasn't a lot going for. I was just really disappointed in the way that the game kind of played out for Jalen Bedford. I feel like 34 minutes is great, but there were times where the Running Rebels put themselves in holes. They were down 7 to start the second half almost immediately. They were down 14-2 to start the game, and asking this team without DJ Thomas to dig out of those holes was really tough. And I think that if Kruger would have started Jalen Bedford we maybe could have avoided that early offensive drought. But really not a big rotation. Only 28 minutes for Bear Cherry with only one foul. I thought he probably could have played a little bit more. But again, Jeremiah Cherry, Bear Cherry, 28 minutes. A lot of that's probably conditioning. He does kind of huff and puff on the floor a little bit. And despite his weight loss and you can tell he's tried. Only 4 of 9 from the free throw line for a big guy. That's not completely unexpected, but I thought that Bear Cherry had a pretty solid game. 16.6 rebounds. Did have a couple of turnovers, but he had a great block in the game as well. I thought Bear was fine. Brooklyn Hicks was a big disappointment. He did make both the shots that he took from two, both of the layups, but he finishes 0 of 2 from 3. Just not a lot of shot opportunities. I feel like Brooklyn Hicks is a guy with a ton of potential, and I want to see him take that next leap. And it just hasn't happened this year. And that's been a little disappointing. But, I think that, whatever Brooklyn's path is in college sports, I think he's going to be excellent next year if he's playing for the Running Rebels, which I hope he is because I like Brooklyn, or if he's playing for another team. I think he has a lot of potential, and it was kind of unfortunate to see him not get a ton of opportunity tonight. So, yeah, it was a short rotation, only 7 guys. You did not see Jacob Benarbi. You did not see Isaiah Cottrell. You did not see Yap. There was quite a few players you didn't see. And it was a tight rotation. Kruger was really trying to win it, but ultimately, 7 of 17 from the free throw line. What that screams to me, and what I said in our Burner Brigade podcast, was that screams a lack of confidence to me. I think that this team obviously knows all of the smoke around Kevin Kruger and his future as the head coach of the Running Rebels. This team knows that his time as head coach is probably coming to a close. This team realizes that they have consistently fallen short in basically, besides 2, all of the games that they've played, the big games that they've played. This team's been frustrating because if you look at their record overall. Not a lot of blowout lot. There was that 2-game stretch early on in the season where they lost early on in conference play, where they lost by 21 to Boise State and 20 and 22 to or 22 and 22 to Boise State and Colorado State. But besides those 2 games this year, a lot of their games have been pretty close. They've had a few blowouts, but a close loss to Northwestern. They did get kind of blown out at Creighton. A really close loss, a game they really should have won at Dayton. A crazy close loss to Memphis early on in the year. They've lost a lot of close games, and now with 4 games to go, they've got an away game at San Jose State, which is seen as a coin flip type game for based on Ken Palm's projections. And then obviously closing out the season with an incredibly important game, home game against Reno that they're going to have to give it their all to try and win. So what is this team without DJ Thomas? We saw the coaching staff try and use Jaden Henley as a point guard. I like that. I think it's a good idea, but it just hasn't really materialized, especially in this game. Jaden Henley was, I don't blame him. It's not his position. I know he's played point guard before in the past, but Jaden Henley just wasn't, just didn't quite have it. And no disrespect to him. I like him as a player. I think he's awesome, but ultimately, I don't think he's a point guard. And I think that you have to play. Jalen Bedford at point. I think you have to play Jalen Hill maybe a little bit at point guard, and maybe just take that responsibility off Jaden Henley because I feel like that limited his scoring potential tonight. Kind of disappointed, honestly, with that. Ultimately, this team its ceiling is a lot lower without DJ. But its floor is probably about the same. They're probably, they were never probably going to win 4 games in the Mountain West Conference tournament. And with this loss, I think officially, it was probably already basically impossible, but officially, I think you can probably cross out any chance that they have of getting a top 5 seed in the Mountain West Conference tournament with this loss officially. Not that it was going to happen anyway, but I guess there was still an outside shot if they'd pulled this game out. But Boise State beating Reno on the road probably seals their fate at this point. With this shot, they're going to be in trouble. They're in trouble. They really are. They're not going to get a top 5 seed. They're probably going to get the 7 or the 6 seed, which is going to put them up against Fresno or Air Force in the first round of the Mountain West Conference tournament, and then one of the better teams in the second round. and it's going to be up for the Rebels to try and go out and win. But the Rebels' performance in the Mountain West Conference tournament has been really tough over the last decade. They're 0-9 against every team not named Air Force in the Mountain West Conference tournament. They haven't won 2 games in the Mountain West Conference tournament since the 2012-2013 season. So I guess we'll see. This team isn't as good without DJ. I mean, newsflash. I mean, everybody knows that. But ultimately, I don't think they were going to go anywhere anyway, to be honest with you. So, what can we expect from the next games? The San Jose State game, like I said, is going to be a coin flip game. I think it's a game they absolutely can and probably will win. San Jose State, is dealing with some injuries with McClendon and Uduje. I think that the Rebels should be able to go into San Jose and pull that one out. But that's why you play the game. It's still going to be a tough game. And San Jose State is a well-coached team. Tim Miles is a great coach at San Jose, and I think that they can absolutely, beat the Rebels. But the Rebels, that'll be a good opportunity to get their confidence back going into the final 3-game stretch, which is pretty tough. They play San Jose State, tough game. They play Reno at home. That's going to be probably one of the better attended, if not the best attended game at the Thomas and Mack this year. And then the closeout at home versus San Diego State, who will be assuredly wanting to get revenge on the Running Rebels after the Rebels took down San Diego State at Viejas Arena. And then obviously away at New Mexico. I actually think the Rebels have a pretty good chance at that one. New Mexico might already have the number 1 seed locked up in the Mountain West. And the Rebels have obviously historically played really well at the Pit. So I think the Rebels have a good chance of beating New Mexico. But yeah, 10-10, I think that's probably about right. I think the Rebels are going to go 500 in conference play. It's been a very disappointing conference season. I think the one game that you can look at in conference play as the truly horrific performance was the home loss to Wyoming. Every other loss, they've just lost to better teams. This Colorado State team, Banana Man says, I think we finished 1-4. They only have 4 games left now. So let me look. So they have 4 games left now. So 1-3. You think we win any of these games? I mean, San Jose. Yeah, I don't blame you for saying that. I think we probably pull off a win at New Mexico or against Reno. I think we'll probably finish. I think we finished 10-10. So I think we finished 2-2 in this last 4. I think we win at San Jose State, and then we win, one of those final 3 games. That's kind of my prediction, but you never know. You never know, and that's why you play the game. And so, I did talk about in the pregame show UNLV being rejected from Maui. We don't exactly have a playmaker on the team. I think that this performance from Jalen Bedford, Banana Man, will kind of force the coach's hands, Kevin Kruger's hand, in terms of playing him, from basically the whole game. Bedford has to be on the field, on the court. Sorry. Basically at all times now. I think absolutely Bedford is the only offensive, crazy upside offensive player that we have left on this team. And I will say I've been encouraged by the better play of Bear Cherry. I mean, he went through a few stretches there where he was truly horrific, and he's really turned it around. Yeah, Bedford did have a positive plus minus because everybody else was on the floor during those bad stretches at the beginning of each half where UNLV shot itself in the foot. They were down 14-2 early while Bedford was on the bench. It was ridiculous. So what can we expect? What can we expect from this Running Rebel team, this Running Rebel program? Believe me, the athletic director and the administration is already vetting and looking at coaches that they're going to hire after Kevin Kruger. The steps are already being taken. I do think that they will get a good non-conference tournament. Losing out on Maui really sucked. But I do think that they're going to find themselves in a good non-conference tournament for next year. And I'm excited. I'm excited about the prospect of starting over. I'm going to keep supporting these guys as best as I can on this team. Obviously, it's got to be frustrating for me I imagine if you love UNLV basketball and maybe you're already, maybe you're on the staff or something, you probably don't love this show, to be honest, because I'm incredibly critical and I have absolutely no relationship with the team or really anybody on the staff. And so I kind of just say whatever I want. And I don't, you don't get filtered crap from me. Everything's just completely what I'm thinking. So I'm going to continue to do that the rest of this season. A lot of good stuff going on with football right now. There were a lot of football players, I believe. Colandrea was at the game today. I think Alex Orji was at the game today. There were a bunch of offensive linemen I saw walking up and walking out of the arena. So it was really nice to see a UNLV football presence at the game, and I appreciated their efforts. They were there, they were cheering, and there's a good feeling around UNLV football right now, despite the recent tragedy. So how is the game going to end? I'm not 100% sure. How is the season going to end? I'm not 100% sure. I think 2-2. I think they beat Air Force or Fresno in the first round of the Mountain West Conference tournament, and then they probably lose. Um, you know, Pop and Bear at center. I think that there's a bit of a spacing issue there, and a bit. There's just not a lot of ball handling on the court if that happens. And this team has basically been forced to play slow. I would be okay with trying it out, because I don't know that we've really seen that very much this year. I'd be okay with it, but I feel like the lack of ball handling and on the court would be a problem in those lineups. So I mean, this team has basically been forced to play small uh, without without Rob Whaley this year a lot. And when you play small, Jalen Hill at power forward, that he does have better ball skills than most college power forwards. And so ultimately, I don't think that there's going to be any any super tall lineups, especially with Jacob Benarby and Isaiah Cottrell just being in the doghouse, especially Isaiah Cottrell. Our power forward is 6'5". Yeah, I mean, ultimately this team's pretty small. Bear Cherry's a big guy, but he's definitely a limited player, and I can see that Bear Cherry uh, has I can see why Bear Cherry is here and was not recruited at a higher level. Although I do think Bear Cherry is great. Um, there was an update on the Fresno State gambling story. If everybody saw that update, ABC 30 has learned that 2 of the 3 Fresno State's basketball student athletes accused of sports gambling allegedly placed bets on games they actively played in. Per source, unders on rebounds and unders on point totals. Yikes. Okay. So, hey, Rebels, at least we're not Fresno State basketball. We don't have players. We've been accused in the past of having players embroiled in gambling scandals, but I don't think that was ever actually true. Fresno State looks like they're dealing with a massive issue at the moment. So, guys, be grateful that we're not Fresno State. Ultimately, you take a look around the Mountain West right now. Let me look at the standings real quick. Boise State beat Reno today, so I believe us and Reno are tied in the standings. Mountain West basketball standings. Let me pull them up here. So, Air Force. Okay, where's the Mountain West? There it is. Okay. New Mexico's in first at 14-1. I guess I'll share my screen here so you guys can see that. Share screen, Mountain West basketball standings. Boop. Okay, so New Mexico's at first at 14-2. Utah State beat San Diego State tonight. They're at 14-3. They're almost definitely going to be the top 2. Colorado State, though, has put a very respectable Mountain West season. Besides their 2 losses to New Mexico, they've been really solid. They're at 12-4. San Diego State's at 11-5. Boise State is also tied with San Diego State at 11-5. And then it's us. So Reno is 7-9. I did not realize that. So UNLV does have the inside track. If they can close out at 2-2 at 10-10, they're probably going to finish as the 6th seed, which is the preferable place to be, because then you get to play Air Force or Fresno in the first rounds, which and maybe never, and maybe your team catches fire and does well in the conference tournament. Behind, so 7-9, and then obviously the teams after: San Jose State at 6-11, Wyoming 5-12, and then Air Force and Fresno State are at 1-15 and 1-16 respectively. Do want to shout out the baseball team. They beat the number 25 Fresno State. Cincinnati Bearcats. So congratulations to the baseball team. Maybe one day we'll get our sick burner squad that we have for maybe a friendly NIL softball game versus the baseball team. Banana Man asks, do I think Alford is out at Reno? Alford is definitely not out at Reno. Reno, when they signed Steve Alford to be their head coach, gave him a 10-year contract at something $1.5 million a year with a $6 million buyout or something. Reno financially cannot afford to fire Steve Alford. He will be the head coach at Reno probably through at least until the last 2 years of his contract. I guess at least until year 9. So I think they've got 3 or 4 more years of Steve Alford at Reno. They have made the tournament twice. So I don't see any scenario, any world where Steve Alford is fired at Reno. I think he's absolutely going to remain the head coach there. Um, and so, yeah, guys, that's probably going to do it for the night. We've done a lot. We did the Burner Brigade. I did the pregame show. I'm going to upload all of this onto Substack so that everybody can listen. But it's been a great night of UNLV content. It was a sad performance. The free throws really did us in this game. 7 of 17. This team doesn't believe. This team doesn't have the confidence, and that's a bummer. I don't think they think that they're good enough to win. Um, and that's a bummer. That's a big bummer because I think that they absolutely are. And I think with a good coach and a good leader, they could. And they just don't have one of those. When I say this team doesn't believe in themselves, I believe in the team. I actually think that they are good enough to win big games in the Mountain West. And it makes me sad that they aren't. I think if they had a great coach behind them, they could. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Ultimately, Kevin Kruger has dug his own grave here. I think he's made some stubborn decisions this year that have really hindered the growth of his team, specifically with lineups. Playing how he's used Jalen Bedford is probably the biggest one that comes to mind. But obviously, some bad injury luck has stung Kevin Kruger in the last couple of years. Jalen Hill last year and Rob Whaley this year. But injuries are just part of college sports, and you got to deal with them. Every team has injuries, so. Guys, I want to thank you all for checking out the show tonight. I appreciate you. You're great. I have a great, listening base. I love it. Again, if you see me at the games, come up, shake my hand, talk to me. I'm at all the football and basketball games. But guys, you have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a great Sunday. Spend lots of time with the people that you love, and let's run.